Welcome to Business Talks with your host, Kent Adams. Join Kent now as he sits down with business and community leaders to discuss a wide range of important topics in business. Business Talks is brought to you in part by STCU and O'Brien Logistics. Now, here's Kent.
Well, welcome to Business Talks. Hope you're having a good day. We're into summer. It's great weather outside. It's cooled off a little bit as we record and stream this out, but I think we're going to see summer again return. Jeff Holy, new senator for the 6th District of Washington. How are you?
Ken Adams, it is doggone good to see you.
Yeah.
You know, I might have mentioned earlier that I haven't done a single speech, a single interview, and since I got back from session, I was trying to pick up on about 4 months of deferred everything.
Yes.
Well, I was at Olympia here.
Well, heck, you didn't even talk to me much during that time.
You're Ken Adams here,
yes.
And if anybody's going to get a first interview, it's you.
All right. I wish I could remind a couple of local candidates, but we'll see. I've been told that there are folks who will come in to see Mike Fitzsimmons, but not Kent Adams.
Geez, not even. Mike makes a good interviewer, but you're the guy.
Well, yeah, and so let's look at this is Business Talks, and so I'd like, as much as possible, there will be other things I'm sure we'll talk about.
Sure.
But let's talk about what the Senate and the House in the state of Washington did to business this year. Now, yeah, I know.
Did two business this year? I didn't miss that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, to business. Yes. I purposely said that. Not a lot for business. It's a matter of there are more opportunities to get taxes. Let's go after it and let's spend it on a budget that has been good recently, and a budget that was getting better without additional taxes. Am I wrong?
You're spot on. I mean, that's been the issue all the way along here. Is that we had an increase of about $4.5 billion of revenue for this biennium, and we thought that we could well fit everything we needed to
billion
do.
with a B.
With a capital B,
okay.
Yes. And what we could do to meet all our needs, all our increases, everything within that additional $5 billion. And we got about additional $1.5 billion, $1.7 billion tax increase on top of that $4.5 billion increase in revenues, just because the economy is doing well.
Yeah.
And which intuitively says it might be a little counterproductive as you're attempting to tax the things out here that are doing well. Well, that's not the way you actually get business to continue to grow and do well, is by taxing people that are in a situation where business is growing and doing well.
Right.
So you're going to ask, so why don't I just head you off at the pass here, and let's talk about things like the carbon tax they tried to pass.
Yes.
Which, quite frankly, I'm going to check my notes here on that. But
somebody told me this morning that through a Vista will cost ratepayers $4,000 per household.
Well,
at some point down the line.
You know, when you talk about aggregately, I mean, the numbers out there are staggering when they talk about the impact, because carbon tax has everything to do, say, for example, with fuel. You'll have a 40 to 70 cent increase in gas taxes from a carbon tax, which is interesting. Two reasons. One is that the original, the way the bill was composed, we put all that money in the general fund rather than doing anything to abate carbon emissions out there, which is curious, another general revenue source out there. But the other part is everything requires fuel to get every place to deliver, the people to work, the deliveries in the trucks, this kind of thing. So it increases the bottom line cost to everything across the board. So it's not just homeowners, it's at every single stage of production and delivery out there that is going to have a dramatic impact. 40 to 70 cents increase per gallon of gas. Interesting.
Wow.
It's in zombie status right now, which means that during a biennium, a bill that doesn't pass but never is brought up for a vote can be brought back up in the short session following here. The House bill is 1110, I believe, that got traction, passed the House, came to the Senate, and died in rules. So it's not truly dead. It's just it's
resting.
It's the undead.
It's resting somewhere.
Correct.
Yeah.
And capital gains tax is another one everybody goes to on this. It's the debate about whether it's an income tax or not.
Hasn't that been found unconstitutional?
Well, the interesting part is the Internal Revenue Service in every other state that has it defines it specifically as an income tax. But I mean, all that aside, It hasn't been actually litigated yet because it hasn't passed yet. And I don't see anybody trying to put together some sort of a declaratory judgment action on this, which would be, I don't think it would get any traction. However, when you talk about the four nails in the coffin for business in Washington State here, that why people don't come here, how about business and occupation taxes on gross revenues?
Yes.
Venture capital come to Washington. Let's invest $1 million, maybe get a $600,000 return. Do you have a $400,000 loss? No, you have $600,000 gross revenues. You're taxed on it. So B&O tax and gross revenues.
Which really hurts startup and other businesses moving here, because usually the first few years are not profitable.
No,
right?
No, and that's why I said it's a nail in the coffin. Other one is labor and industry, building surpluses on the back of employers out there, with rates that are inconsistent with usage on that. Unemployment benefits that people sometimes come to the state to work 6 months and get, because they're not far off a net yield when you get rid of transportation, everything else you have to pay for on minimum wage. It approaches what you'd actually have for a net yield, less costs than minimum wage. And the goofy part is the regulatory environment that we have that is interlocked and overlapping, federal, state, local, administrative agency, that sometimes when you comply, and we run into this on a regular basis, comply with one agency, you're in violation of another. Now we're one of 7 states that doesn't have an income tax out there, which is probably the single sales point that we have to get corporations to take a serious look at us, because that's a real attraction.
Right.
When you sneak this in, because there's a constitutional prohibition against an income tax, and try to define this as something different when in fact it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another nail in the coffin. We
got to spend money as a state to fight it.
Yeah, interesting how that works.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it'll be a lot of us, meaning those we elect, fighting the state. So it's cost on both sides.
You understand that the Democrats have a trifecta right now, and I'm not talking about partisan issues here at all, but I mean just the realities of a power base.
Right.
They've got the Senate by 3 seats, the House by 9 seats in the governor's office. I had the governor's office 34 years now since Booth Gardner, and we are.
How do you fight that?
Well,
how do you make some common sense out of all that, Jeff?
Okay, it doesn't. Partisan politics are all well and fine. The issue is good policy, no matter which side it comes from, is good policy.
Yes.
And sometimes when you bring things up, it's unavoidable. It's good policy, and so it gets traction.
Did you find some of that this year?
A lot. Okay. I'm willing to reach across the aisle and work with other senators. I don't care where the good ideas come from.
Right.
If it's a good idea, I'm going with it.
Okay.
And sometimes there's a little bit of a pushback because of that. I don't care.
We don't hear a lot about that, though, do we?
Look, I'm 64 in a couple months. I'm not aspiring.
Oh, I thought you were much older.
I am. All right, you're making me smile, counselor. But it's like this is an end game for me here. I plan on doing what I want to do, and I'm not looking to go to Congress. I'm not looking to move up. This is not some sort of a career in hand. This is nothing. This is I can actually have a degree of freedom out there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to play the game well, to the benefit of what I think is important, which foundationally in this region has to do with economic development. And anything I can to bring us out of the career track in Spokane, being you want a latte with that or you want fries.
Yeah.
So I'm trying so hard. And yes, we have a lot going on in the West Plains here.
Yeah.
So I tell you, I got to give a shout out. And this is, I don't agree with Al French on a ton of stuff politically. We don't. But he has an intuition and a sense for business development in our region here that probably hasn't been seen since Phil Harris. Mm-hmm. And Caterpillar is a good example. And I'm going to be really short or just cliche about this. He was asking them, what they're most worried about when they move to an area for business, in consideration of everything else we just spoke about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he got some answers from them. And the big thing that stood out was what local business, local government, seem to miss coming to agreement on is what you agree to extract from us when we move there is not what you intend to extract from us 2, 3, 5 years down the road. We can't plan if it's a moving playing field.
Yes.
And so, Al was smart enough to get code enforcement, planning, permitting, engineering, everybody around one table. And I'm being, going right to the point here. It's not totally accurate, but told everybody, tell them what you need from them. And don't give away the farm. I mean, be legitimate about it, but you're going to live with it for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes, yes.
And they went around the table.
Don't change the rules.
Everybody told them, and Caterpillar pretty much says, yeah, we can live with that because we can plan from that.
Yeah.
We can project. We can move forward. We can operate a business with a solid foundation where we're going. So we've got a local aspect here that is willing to play the game. The public development partnership on West Plains here that they put together with the city and county. Brilliant. We've got the litigation between Airway Heights and the airport that's been resolved without coming to litigation, coming to blows over that. So all of a sudden on the West Plains, we have everybody playing well as a team. You've got Chris Grover, new mayor in Cheney, young guy that really thinks ahead. Kevin Ritchie, the mayor of Airway Heights, and Albert Tripp as the city manager. People want to site there, do stuff. They find a way to say yes on this. Larry Crowder and Todd Woodard at the airport going to great extents to make sure that they're viable. And you don't understand the value of that from a business point of view, from a taxing point of view. But if you have public property there, that we can actually create sustainable revenue by leasehold on that over long periods of time, what that does to actually offset the need for tax increases or provide a sustainable revenue source to the county and city out there, is unavoidable. I mean, all these things are coming together, and we're seeing the results of what's happening from the state kicking in a little bit of money for a exit 272 at Petro and Caterpillar up there, turning into a freight portal.
Yeah.
And that's not in the future. That's not some sort of talking
It's happening
point.
now.
I was at the groundbreaking ceremony a couple of weeks ago here.
Right.
So there's a lot going on in Spokane. We got the money for the additional students for the Wazoo Med School.
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
Oh, amen.
Because that means we're going to likely, no guarantees, but likely have more of them stay in this area.
But that's the whole point. Do you know that Wazoo Med School, the Elson Floyd Med School, doesn't have out-of-state tuition? You know why?
Why?
They don't have any out-of-state students. Everybody and the majority of kids are from this side of the mountain. Kids, I get to say. Graduate students are from this side of the mountain.
To you especially, they're kids.
I'm
going to hear about this, folks.
I'm going to call you out in your age here real quick if you don't knock it off.
You can't count that high.
But the kids that are there are most from Eastern Washington, so we actually have a retention aspect here that they'll meet some of the requirements of the critical care hospitals and the lack of medical care that we have with the demographic age wave, pushing in front of us with the boomers here. It's just we have got so much on the ball for business to go. West Plains Chamber is just completely over the top.
They're cooking.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to take a break because we've got to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about all that's going on out there. And some of it's being duplicated like in Northeast Spokane and so forth because of what's the name of the organization, the government group that's come together for the West Plains.
Oh, it's a public development.
Public development. Right. They're doing that in Northeast Spokane as well because they're finding it works. Right. And everybody can plan ahead. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Jeff Holy right after this.
I'm Nikki Butler, and I'm a regional manager for STCU. My lunch buddy is Nicole.
I'm Brandy Schloss. I'm a regional manager at STCU. My lunch buddy is Angelina. She's grown up with me. I've grown up with her. To see her graduate will be a lot of fun.
Brandy and I have been lunch buddies since the girls were in second grade. It's great that STCU provides me with the opportunity to be part of Reach for the Future. We are committed to the children. We're committed to our community. I'm Nikki.
I'm Brandy.
And STCU is here for good.
O'Brien Logistics would like to invite you to try our local and regional transportation services. With Sprinter vans, lift gates, hot shot flatbeds, and expedited services, our people are ready to step in and help with your transportation needs. Our services are 24/7, 365, and we are trained and prepared to handle air cargo and Canadian shipments. Give us a call at 208-305-2311 or visit our website at o'brienlogistics.net. That's OBRIEN logistics.net.
Well, Jeff Holy, Senator Jeff Holy from the 6th District, my district.
But of course.
Yeah, of course. Right. That's why you picked to come back here
Kent.
to me first, right? has nothing to do with me. It's
You're the voice of the six. Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Lot of other things going on around business from this past legislative session, and year Part B is next year, so it isn't that far off, because you'll be starting to meet this fall,
Yes,
right?
correct.
As things move forward. One of the issues this year that I heard about from folks, and I know you did, were the whole independent contractor bit, where I'm thinking of hairstylists and others who have formed their own little business, they're renting space and everything else, and all of a sudden there are some senators and representatives that want to make them employees. How did we avoid that?
I'm going to bifurcate that, Councillor. There's two different bills you're talking about.
Okay.
One of them is Senate Bill 5513, which attempted to create a rebuttable presumption that you are an employee unless you could provide evidence that would pass muster in court that you are an
Okay.
independent contractor.
Right.
LLC, business license, this
Right,
kind of
right,
thing.
right.
There are no independent contractors per se. It used to be a method, manner, means test 30 years ago here to determine whether or not you're an employee. Now the burden is on the contractor or on the
okay.
employer, respectively, to show otherwise on that. And then the second part of this was Senate Bill 5326. And that was Senator
You're
Turner.
smiling.
No, it was.
You're
this,
smiling.
This is one of the things. Look, we see. There's some monster lobbyists in Spokane. There's monster labor and trade organizations
Sure.
and organizations representing business interests and they'll come up on the hill and absolutely they choreograph stuff a year in advance, right? So this hit out and this basically said it's illegal to sell chairs with somebody that owns a beauty salon to independent contractors, to rent chairs out
Sure.
and they run their own business. That the rebuttable presumption is they're employers and everybody there is an employee. Well, then obviously all the withholding and everything else comes
Right,
into play
right.
here because you're not an independent contractor, and I mean there's always a money aspect, power and control,
Of
and money
course there
aspect
is.
to it. So I get that, a revenue source on this. We had within about probably 5 days, I've never seen so full between the Temple of Justice and the north side of the Capitol building itself. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hairdressers. It was phenomenal out there, and they were.
But they look good.
Oh, but you could. They have no state organization.
Yeah.
This is phone trees. This is people calling up other people. They're closing their hair shops, coming down to Olympia, and just about ready to tear our heads off.
Yeah.
Down there, it was so bad that the bill quietly went away. And it was one of those Gilda Radner never mind moments.
Yeah.
In the Senate side and the House
Because
side.
I'm going to guess for many of them, this is their first real chance to have their own business and feel good about it and make some money and have all the responsibilities and have to market themselves and everything else that goes with owning your own business. And all of a sudden, the state's looking at taking that away.
Well, when you figure out probably 20% of your total gross revenue is going to go for withholding requirements,
Right.
L&I, unemployment, Social Security, Medicare, I mean, all this stuff there. These people, if you make $30, $40 an hour, gross business, and you take the overhead of renting a station off that. Exactly who are we hurting? These people, are they going to end up, making minimum wage,
Right,
running a
right.
business so the state can extract some more revenue? It's like it was amazing on that. I've never seen such an outcry, such a response, so quickly.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch.
Well, I bet. We need to learn more about that sometime. When things
Yes.
like that happen, you need to call it in and get your cell phone out, okay?
I might do that. Yes.
Because that would be fun to cover.
Yeah.
And I knew there was an outcry, but I didn't know all of them showed up. So, sometimes you got to see it to really understand and believe it. One of the other things that happened is the B&O tax. I haven't looked recently to see what effect that's going to have.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Can I? Let me run through.
Do
a
I
list
need to
here.
have a drink or two first?
Well, no. I want to run through a list. So I just hit a couple of the number marks in this because there's kind of a litany.
Uh-oh.
So finance and insurance. There's 5,200 businesses in the state were affected to the tune of $200 million. Health and medical, about 20,000 businesses that were hit to the tune of $160 million. These are
that's
B&O
like talking
increases.
real money.
B&O increases
Yeah.
on this.
That's just the increase.
Almost 35,000 technical consulting and management services for about $150 million. Software, media, communication, 2,000 businesses, 76 million. Computing business, 4 of them. 4 computing businesses, right?
Yes.
Advanced computing businesses for 60 million.
Oh, gee.
Architects and engineers, about 6,000 for 45 million. I could go on with this. It's just like legal services, attorneys, about 7,000 different groups out there.
Right.
Small practices, professional service
Right.
corporations, 44 million.
Yeah, but we don't care about the
Accounting,
attorneys.
tax, and prep,
I'm
and
kidding.
payroll,
Yeah.
6,500 for 30 million. I mean, this is nuts.
So remind me, what happened with all this?
Well, a lot of the stuff passed, but a lot of the stuff got pushed back. And there were some amendments right at the end.
Okay.
That came in where you had Association of Washington Business that got involved, and WSBA and Small Business Administration, this kind of thing, and they knocked it off. It started out about $950 million in total impact. They got it down to about $773 million, so you actually have some pass-throughs there, so that you actually have some costs that aren't considered gross business for the purposes of B&O, which is a little bit of a dent. Nonetheless, we've just dramatically expanded something with a tax increase here when we had 40 to 50. We had about $4.5 billion extra money come in on top of we're 17% increase in expenses. Show me any business out here that's had a 17% increase in gross business. Why can't the state actually behave and just live within its means instead of this constant creep out there to where we have to take more and more? I'm lost.
But obviously the state put away a few $1 billion more for a rainy day, right?
Oh, geez, don't even go there, Kent. I mean, it's just yes and no. What we have is a percentage of total revenues received and something like that as a pittance. And quite frankly,
because we know we're going to have that day.
10 years now. Last May gave us a full 10 years of economic run-up. And I'm not talking about not having an adjustment or a correction.
Right.
Usually we end up with about 2 to 3 years, these minor waves, the sine wave. It's a smoothing. It's a couple of degrees, couple of percentage points up and down with business kind of thing.
Right.
The economic models we use to project, for example, on a trust fund, I'm on a board of directors from about $13 billion. We use a 7-year model for smoothing on that.
Right.
We are a full 10 years in May of economic run-up at this point. If you don't think that there's going to be a cycle down, and I'm not saying it's going to be a cliff or depression, that's handy penny, but there'll be
But the point is we don't know what it's going to be.
But we know that it's going to happen sooner or later. Probably.
Are we prepared?
Are we putting enough money away to weather the cycle and meet the needs and requirements that we currently have set in place for ourselves?
Yeah.
Good example is the state need grant that we finally agreed to fund fully over 3 biennium. At the end of the 3 biennium, that becomes a Washington college grant, which becomes an entitlement. And we go from servicing 65,000 kids to about 110,000 kids.
Oh, wow.
With a guaranteed entitlement.
Yes.
That meet economic criteria. This locks up future money. You lose discretion to actually allocate where it does the most good.
Right.
And act as a legislature. And you ever seen anybody actually roll back an entitlement successfully? Good luck with that.
No, I can't think of one.
Kid,
and I've been here forever.
So let me tell you, in the minority party, what we can do. They go for gold, and I understand you have a power base you can accomplish, which you philosophically believe in. But of that 1 to 100, if they're going for gold and going for 100, if we can hold them to 60 or 70, that is a monster win on our part from our caucus, the Republican caucus, is just having some sort of an impact where you reduce the rate of increase on these things. Although people look at it like, what are you doing? You're still killing us.
Yeah.
We're trying to reduce the impact of what's happening out there. We're fairly successful in doing that.
Good. So what do you see this next year?
I see that there's a lot of zombie bills out there that were never brought up for a vote. They might have died in committee, might have died in rules, might have died in the House of Origin kind of a thing.
Okay.
But since they never came up for a vote and were not voted up or down, technically they can be brought up again, the zombie status, during the short session following. Every bill is good for a 2-year cycle.
Right.
So we've got some things we're going to have to confront out there that we've talked about here that didn't quite get traction. But, again, the threat assessment is on red again, and we're back in play.
Right. We have about less than a minute. let's talk about the midnight oil burning of the last session.
Yeah.
Yeah. And coupled with that would be my point of, are we now able from Spokane and eastern side of the mountains to come into electronically to hearings and to debate and so forth?
Still in beta. And the
Okay.
groups we actually have out there, the committees that have agreed to this, it's been very successful.
Okay.
The problem is that you have so many people that sign up to talk, you only have so much bandwidth for a committee hearing
Right.
on this. So you have to prioritize or figure out who queued up first or whatever you can use for criteria.
Yeah.
It's working well, and it's including more and more people that don't have the ability to travel 300 miles
Yes.
to come see us.
Well, and while we've got great organizations that represent us, GSI and other business groups, AWB and so forth, sometimes it hits our particular industry enough that it's worth going and saying, wait a second, do you realize what it's going to do to me? Which means my employees is what it comes
Of
down
course,
to.
it's the front line calling us and telling us,
Yes.
this is what you're doing to me, and here's how it affects
A way
me.
for us to not have to spend a day and a half to get there and back and rent a car and fly over and everything else.
Yes.
To get our 2 minutes even, 3
Yes.
minutes.
Correct.
I don't think we're asking for a half hour, but a chance to speak out. That just seems to me that that's part of our free speech.
Oh, gosh, I tell you what, it's welcome to actually hear voices on the front line
Yeah.
from how we're impacting things, and if
Right.
we're doing damage, you're doing well.
Because I'm going to guess that once in a while you go, I never thought of that. Because
Well,
you don't run that kind of business.
Once in a while, we have such a broad arena of information that comes
Yeah.
at us. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
It's always good to hit a real-world impact.
Right. Jeff Holy, thank you for representing me and my family in the 6th District as Senator.
Oh, Ken.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for making us number one for a trip back. We'll have to have you a little more
It is
often.
an honor. It is always an honor.
Okay, as we walk through, I hope you have hip-high boots on.
Ken, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always, always. Thanks for watching Business Talks. See you next week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Business Talks is brought to you in part by STCU and O'Brien Logistics. Ask Kent a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.